This now leads us to so we have here the Quran and the Sunnah and Ijma'. So we covered these three topics. Now this brings us to the issue of reason, aql, rational, the reason. And there are numerous proofs from reason. The scholars have mentioned them. We can mention two of them. One from Imaam Ahmed, rahimahullah, Imaam Ahmed, and one from Ibn al-Qayyim, rahimahullah. And in fact, Ibn al-Qayyim is just simply elaborating upon the rational proof brought by Imaam Ahmed. So Imaam Ahmed, rahimahullah, he said in his book, Ar-Raddu al-Jahmiyyah was Zanadika, a refutation of the Jahmiyyah and the heretics. He says, when you wish to know that the Jahmi lies upon Allah, when he claims that Allah is in every place, and is not in one place exclusive to another, then say to him. So, in other words, Imam Ahmed is saying that these people, because in that time, the Jahmiyyah, there were of two types. One type used to say, Allah is in everything. Allah is in every place. Allah is in everything. And another type used to say, Allah is not in the universe, nor is He outside the universe. Allah is not above the universe, nor is He below the universe. You're saying all these impossible things. Right? So, Imam Ahmed is saying that when you come to know that this individual is a liar, he's lying about his Lord, then, when he claims that Allah is in every place, then ask him, say to him, did Allah exist when there was nothing? Did not Allah exist when there was nothing? And he will say yes. Obviously, he can only say yes. There's no other answer to this question. Did Allah exist when there was nothing? Of course, Allah existed when there was nothing. So he will say yes. So once he's established this, then you say, when He created something, so now Allah exists and nothing exists. When He created something, did He create it within Himself, or did He create it outside of Himself? So he can now only give three answers. There are only three answers to this question. Right? When Allah created something, did He create it in Himself, or did He create it outside of Himself? So he will only have three answers. If he claims that Allah created the creation within Himself, then he is a kafir. Because he's claiming that Allah created the jinns and the devils and Iblis within His own self. This is kufr, this is disbelief. And if he says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created them outside of Himself, then from this point, there are two answers. Okay, there are two answers. So either he says Allah created the creation outside of Himself, and then He entered into His creation. Then He Himself entered into His creation. Like what the Christians say, that Isa alayhi salam, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He came as Isa alayhi salam into His creation. Right? So now, they either give this is a second answer. And again, this is kufr, and this is disbelief. Because this would mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it means that He entered into His creation, and within His creation is every dirty and filthy thing. And so this is clear, manifest disbelief. Or thirdly, he can only say that Allah created His creation outside of Himself, and then He did not enter into them. Rather, He is distinct and separate from them. So if he gives this third answer, this means that he's abandoned all of his falsehood. And so this is a proof from reason, from rationale and from reason. And Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he actually elaborates upon this proof. This proof originates with Imam Ahmed, but then he elaborates upon it, and he actually has 5 questions. He elaborates upon this and actually has 5 questions. And so this is in a bit more detail. But basically, the only difference between this proof is that first of all we say, does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exist only in the mind, or does He exist in reality? Right? Because some things exist only as ideas in our mind. It's only an idea. Right? So if I said love or mercy, right, you can't point to love and mercy. You can't say here's love and there's mercy in a bottle. It doesn't exist like that. Love and mercy are ideas in the mind. They exist in the mind only. Right? They're ideas. So we're asking, the first question is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala an idea in the mind only? Or does He exist outwardly in reality? So if he says Allah exists in the mind only, he is a kafir, disbeliever. Established his disbelief. Right? Meaning that Allah doesn't actually exist, there's only an idea in the mind. If he says Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yes, He exists outside of the mind in actual reality. Right? So now this is the first question, he's answered correctly. Then you take him to the next question. So then there's a series of questions. And so the next question basically is, okay, now that you establish that Allah exists outside of the mind, He exists in outward reality, this existence, is it separate from the creation, or is it together with the creation? Is it the same as the creation, or is it a separate one from the creation? So now, obviously, if he says, yes, it is, his existence is the same as the whole of the creation, then he is a disbeliever. He's a disbeliever. Right? He's more disbelieving than the Christian who says that only Isa is Allah. Right? Because here this person is saying that the whole creation is Allah. Right? So either he says this, or he says, yes, I believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His existence is separate and distinct from the existence of the creation. Right? So now this is the second level of the question. A second level of the argument with respect to him. And then if he says, I believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His existence is separate and distinct from the creation, then we say, okay, now, does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, does He indwell in the creation? Does He come into His creation? Or can the creation come into Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Right? So we already know, we accepted that Allah is separate and distinct from His creation. But the next question now, the third question now is, does the creation enter into Allah, or does Allah enter into the creation? So now we are coming to the level of what the Christians believe, that Allah enters the creation as Isa alayhi salam, or as other people believe that some people, they merge with Allah and they enter into Allah. So again, depending on how he answers, then we say that this is disbelief or this is correct. So anyway, the point being that these are just some rational proofs that we use to establish that if Allah His existence is separate from the creation, He's outside of the creation, He does not merge and mix with the creation, then the conclusion can only be that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is above His creation.